The MonsterVerse isn't a cinematic universe. Now, hear me out. The series has come so far over the years. It started off super dramatic and gritty and realistic, and has since gone through multiple genres, different creative styles, and introduced countless mind-bending things. It's easily my favorite set of films ever. Like, I can watch any of them hundreds of times and I won't get bored. And the best thing? Each being different means that they can individually appeal to you depending on what mood you're in. If you're feeling happy, you can watch Godzilla x Kong. That's just completely wacky fantasy. But if you're feeling in the mood for something serious, then you've got 2014, which is more grounded. There's not many franchises that can do that. It's given us tons of new inventive monsters, giving us some beloved and not so beloved characters, and has blessed us with some of the best Godzilla and Kong action ever put to screen. But can you really call the MonsterVerse a cinematic universe? From the get-go, the series was designed to give us all sorts of films centering around different monsters, both old and new. But has it? We've of course had 2 Godzilla films, 1 Kong film, and 2 crossovers, with a 3rd on the way. But so far the MonsterVerse has been more of a Godzilla and Kongverse. It's gotten to the point where Legendary no longer feels safe releasing standalone Godzilla or Kong films. They think the only way for this franchise to thrive is through crossovers. But they don't realize that they're only digging an early grave by relying so heavily on that. Because instead of being special events, saved for big climaxes to plot threads that have been set up for years, which is the method most cinematic universes use, they're instead making the MonsterVerse films only crossover events, which is only making them feel less special and reduces the possible lifespan of the series. Imagine if after the Avengers, they went straight to Age of Ultron and then went to Infinity War. It just doesn't make sense. But that's only a fraction of the problems I have with the MonsterVerse. As you know, in the past I've talked about how there's very little consistency between films. It barely even constitutes as a universe. Plot threads from one film are completely dropped in the next. Like, they're pretending Godzilla isn't a species anymore. They didn't address how Apex got the Ghidorah skull from Alan Jonah. The Muto Prime essentially is non-canon now. And all the monsters that were woken up in King of the Monsters, never to be seen again. There's just so much that's being ignored. Even in the comics that Legendary release, they give us these stories that we think are expanding the lore, only for them to turn around and either make them soft canon or entirely non-canon, making them completely pointless. It's perhaps most evident in the fact cities are completely destroyed and are never addressed in the follow-ups. Ghidorah's invasion was a catastrophic event that flattened countless cities, including Washington, D.C. And you'd expect this to be addressed, right? Perhaps we see an even greater emphasis on military control. Some countries closing their borders and announcing martial law. Maybe some started worshipping the Titans as gods. There's so much you can do with this, and what does this planetary level destruction lead to? Nothing. Literally nothing. Even in Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla blasts a hole through Hong Kong right into the Hollow Earth. Wow, I mean, that's pretty big. I can't wait to see it addressed in the next film. It doesn't. There's just a hole to another world slap bang in the middle of Hong Kong, and you just have to be okay with that. In the New Empire, Godzilla, Kong, Shimo, and Scar King all flatten Rio de Janeiro. Will it be addressed? Who knows? It feels like the filmmakers just don't care about the world building and universe growth. We've uncovered so much in the MonsterVerse, but what does it really matter if it's only going to be ignored? I can only hope that this is what the MonsterVerse film is going to address next, because it's been 5 films of catastrophic destruction only to be ignored, and it's just a bit sloppy. It has to lead to something. The only thing this series has to show for consequences of Titan attacks was in Monarch Legacy of Monsters, where we saw Japan had defensive missiles and emergency shelters set up in case of Titan attacks. But this is set before the Ghidorah invasion, and from what we see, nothing's really changed. But back to the core issue, that this doesn't really feel like a MonsterVerse. There are many ways they could expand the MonsterVerse by having other Titans take center stage. Lord knows there's enough fans of Mothra and Rodan, but Legendary refuses to give them their time to shine. Even in the expanded media like the comics and TV shows, areas where they could focus on the less popular titans, since there's less risk of financial loss, they still focus on Godzilla and Kong. And I've come to realize something, that the MonsterVerse isn't a MonsterVerse at all. It's a human-verse. Now, this isn't so much of a bad thing. Instead of focusing on different monsters and having that be your foundation, they've made a choice to have the stories focus on different people and how a world of monsters has affected them. We get to see multiple characters in different settings with different backstories, and how they individually react to the situations that Titans force them into. It's not a bad idea on paper, but Legendary hasn't done enough to make the world feel like something that's changed because of the monsters. Going back again to the consequences. Yes, Monarch has set up more outposts, but this is from Monarch's perspective. How has it changed for everyday people? Because from the audience's perspective, very little. The closest thing we got to seeing the impact was in Godzilla vs. Kong with the Pensacola humanitarian relief. But that's in the same film. Where was this after Ghidorah attacked? Or the Hong Kong brawl that flattened the city? We get none of that. Like I said, the concept of focusing on humans isn't such a bad thing. I want to see more films and shows from different perspectives, but I just need them to do more with the world building. Because just think for a second, how would our world react if they found out Titans exist? That's such an interesting concept, and the MonsterVerse has done nothing with it. I also wanted to do more than focus on Godzilla or Kong. Now, one thing that is helping are the games, funnily enough. While they aren't exactly what people have been asking for, they're giving us new experiences in the MonsterVerse that we wouldn't be able to get from the films. Survivor Instinct finally gave us Abaddon, the big scary spider titan, and showed us firsthand what a titan attack would be like. And it was pretty good, honestly. And Titan Chasers is showing us what happens when a Hollow Earth portal opens up as it sends thousands of creatures up to the surface, and goes more in depth about the groups that the films glance over. It's things like these that helps with the world building. It shows the consequences of living in a world populated by Titans. Like, yeah, there will be people that exploit them for money, or even hunt the monsters. That's an interesting idea. Even though we're 5 movies in, it still feels like we're only scratching the surface of what the MonsterVerse can offer. I really hope that in the future they take advantage of the idea by giving us games where you can play as the monsters. Give us something from the Titans' perspective. And one of my top requests on my MonsterVerse wishlist is a prehistoric planet-style documentary based on the monsters of the Hollow Earth. Make it feel real, like a tangible world that exists. Make it a MonsterVerse, and not so much a human-verse. So, in summary, what I believe they need to do is focus on lore consistency, follow through with plot threads set up in previous films, make the world feel more real, have consequences to actions, make standalone films again. Not everything needs to be a crossover. Focus on more than just Godzilla and Kong. There's no shortage of Titans. And as a little bonus, expand the universe in other mediums. Give us a MonsterVerse game where we actually play as monsters. It's what literally everyone wants. Remember, I love the MonsterVerse more than any other film franchise, and I feel inclined to critique it because I love it so much and I want it to be even better. With a new director on the horizon, there's really only 2 possibilities. He either continues all the plot threads that are leading into the next film, like humans wanting to take the fight to the Hollow Earth, and properly grows the lore in a cohesive way, or he can just drop it and do something completely different, which honestly wouldn't surprise me at this point. But what are your issues you have with the MonsterVerse, and how would you fix it? Let us know in the comments section down below. Don't forget to subscribe and stomp the notification button to become a resident of DangerVille today. I've been Alistair, and we'll see you residents in the next one.